Hello, and welcome to another lecture presented by www.free-academy.com. Today, we're going to be doing the chain rule. Now, I want to do a little disclaimer before we do this. I find the chain rule incredibly difficult to explain. I'll do the best job I can, but in all actuality, the chain rule is really easy to get once you do get it. And what it states is that if you're going to find the derivative of g of f of x, that it's going to equal g prime of f of x multiplied by f prime of x. Alright, that's a bit of a mouthful, so let's demonstrate with an example to try to really drive this home. We're going to find the derivative of sine of x squared. And before we can plug anything into our formula here, we're going to need to define what our g is and what our f is for this. So we're going to have g, and I'm just going to use parentheses. I can't really say g of x because we're going to put f of x in there. It's just a little bit too confusing. So g is going to equal the sine placeholder, and our f of x will equal x squared. Now in all reality, I can put like x or z or anything in these parentheses here, and then just, actually, let's say this is z, and then z equals f of x. I can do that. That just comes back to and check out the introduction to functions lecture if that's getting confusing. But I just prefer to use the parentheses as placeholders. To me, I just like that a little bit more. So we have g parentheses equals sine parentheses, and f of x equals x squared. So our g prime is the derivative of sine, which we know is cosine. And the derivative of f of x, that's a really easy one. That's just 2x. So now that we have all these, we can go and we can plug this all into our formula here. Our g prime that we see, I'm going to switch my colors. Our g prime right here, not that one, is this. So cosine in our parentheses, and then inside the parentheses we have f of x, which is x squared. And then we multiply that by f prime of x, which we have right here, 2x. So the derivative of sine of x squared equals cosine of x squared multiplied by 2x. That's the chain rule. Just like the product rule of the quotient rule, once you have your various derivatives, it's just a matter of plugging into the formula. The only thing that's it's difficult to communicate just this part right here if you don't have a good understanding of how functions are put together. Now I'm going to bring up a new pad here, and we're going to do the half angle identities for sine and cosine. Sine of theta over 2, cosine of theta over 2, and we'll do our double angle identities too. Sine of 2 theta and cosine of 2 theta. These are simple chain rules. Just to be clear, I'm going to actually write the chain rule out again so we have that to look at. D by dx of g of f of x equals g prime of f of x times f prime of x. So sine of theta over 2, sine will be g, theta over 2 will be f of x, or f of theta. I guess it doesn't really matter. Derivative of sine is cosine, and then we keep the original of what's in the parentheses, theta over 2. Nothing changes there. And now we're going to take the derivative of what's inside the parentheses, which is just going to equal 1/2. And it's going to be the same story with our cosine of theta over 2. We take the derivative of cosine, which is negative sine, keep the original parentheses, and then multiply by the derivative of the inside. And by the same logic, with their sines and cosines down here, cosine of 2 theta times 2, and negative sine of 2 theta over 2. Now I feel like it should leave you with one more good example before we go any further. Bring up a new note here. And I don't really have one in my head, so I'm just going to try to think of one really quick here. Here's one. How about sine of x squared? Which you can also write as sine squared of x. So we're going to find the derivative of this. This is an interesting one because this time our g is going to be parentheses squared, and our f of x will actually be sine of x. So the derivatives of these are g prime of parentheses, using just our basic power rule, is 2 parentheses and minus 1, which is 1, which we can leave out. Derivative of sine of x is going to be cosine of x. So now to actually compute this derivative here, I'll rewrite it. Sine x squared is going to equal, bring the 2 to the front, 2 sine of x. As always, what's inside the parenthesis doesn't change. It's the same thing in the parentheses afterwards. Times the derivative inside the parenthesis, which is cosine of x. So the answer we get, 2 sine x cosine x. And now hopefully you have a good introduction to the chain rule.